Hi, everybody, and welcome to the most recent version of the Tampa Bay Adobe User Group. Thank you all for coming tonight or today, depending on where you're located. I just want to welcome everybody and ask you where you are watching from. Feel free to put that information into the chat. And please give StreamYard permission to share your name and your messaging. The reason why that's important is that at the end of the presentation, we'll be raffling off a 12-month subscription to Creative Cloud. So that's going to be really, really important to make sure that you have that working for you. So tell us where you are. My name is Sarah Schweiger, and I run the Tampa Bay Adobe User Group. And we have a website as well as the Facebook group. So check us out, as well as I have a YouTube, and that's where many of you may be watching us from right now. So welcome, everybody. I just want to go back to the welcome and ask you again where you're coming from. Also, I want to start off too by thanking everyone and also thanking StreamYard for allowing us to use their software this event. The next thing I'd like to do, though, is welcome a very special guest today. Our special guest speaker today is Andrew Kavanaugh. He will be our speaker, and he is a digital artist, creator, and head admin of the Photoshop and Lightroom group. So let me put that up there real quick so everyone can see that. If you want to check his Photoshop and Lightroom group, check them out. They're a huge group. And then he also is the admin and creator for the AI art and digital art group. So welcome if you're joining us from that group. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But I'd like to really turn it over to Andrew because he is not only all of that, but he is so much more. So Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, so I am a digital artist. I am a Photoshop and Lightroom tutor, and I'm an Adobe community expert and an Adobe Express ambassador. And as Sarah said, I run the Photoshop and Lightroom group and the AI art and digital art group, both on Facebook and LinkedIn. So those exact names you can find on LinkedIn if you want to join. But I do have to warn you, LinkedIn is not as active as Facebook, so it's not the same, but it is a group if you are a LinkedIn person. So yeah, so today want to focus on Adobe Firefly, all the wonderful things you can create there with starting with a prompt and then tweaking that and all the different stylizations and options that they give you, and then also showing similar ways of creating that in Photoshop, but also tonal correcting, color correcting, sharpening with the camera raw filter in Photoshop. And it looks like we have some people joining us. So
absolutely, yeah.
Christina,
welcome. We've got Sean. He is a local for the Tampa User Group. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Beverly Hills, Florida.
You asked that. You said that last time you were on here.
I'm going to say it every time.
I know. Well, that's because you are out of Los Angeles, and we all know that Los Angeles, California, has a Beverly Hills,
I
California.
live in Beverly Hills.
Yes. Oh, do you live in Beverly Hills?
It's funny though. Like I live in Beverly Hills, but if you cross the street, it's West Hollywood. So I'm kind of on the cusp of.
Small world.
Yeah, there's Michael's here from Safety Harbor.
Welcome, Michael. I know he said he was going to join us. He got my email, so if you if you want to stay in touch, you can definitely email me, send me a message, and DM me on the Facebook group, and I will definitely add you to our future emails. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and do join that Tampa Bay Adobe User Group on Facebook. Nice group.
Yeah, and so you can find us right here. Go to facebook.com groups Tampa Bay Adobe. Definitely check us out there. And also, if you win the 12-month subscription, I will need to get your information that way. So
that's cool. Very good. Okay, so lots to go over. So I guess I will share my screen and jump on in.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'll go ahead and.
There we go. Yep. Okay, so here I am in, let's see, firefly.adobe.com, as you can see here. And I've already started here in the text to image module. And I I could have started on the original homepage, but I am a beta tester, and there are some features I didn't want to reveal, so I wanted to jump right to text to image. But starts with the homepage with various options, and then you just click text to image. So when you get to text to image, as you can see here on the left, it is telling you that it's now using the Firefly Image 3 model. You do have an option of going back to Firefly Image 2, but Firefly Image 3 is obviously the improved, most recent model, better quality images, more detail. Nice. Then you have the aspect ratio, and therefore I'm set to square, but you could set it to widescreen, which is something that I tend to enjoy. I'm just going to reach over and find an interesting prompt that I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to come back. And so you can choose under content type if you want it to be art, as you can see here. This is like art type of imagery, or a photo, which it would reference out to the Adobe stock library that Adobe has. I guess if you switch it to auto, as it says here, it'll pretty much read your prompt and decide which is appropriate. Under structure, there is the new structure reference where you can upload an image. You can either click the icon or upload here, or browse the gallery, and whatever you use as your structured reference, it will tend to keep that same imagery, even though you might in the prompt have a different style or story that you're telling. So like if I had a portrait of me like this, it might have me like that, even though I have a descriptive of like a man on a mountain jumping or something. It might still have the same pose, same angle, etc. Then you have styles. So under styles, once again, you have style reference. So you could upload something that you wanted to emanate. So if you want it to be like a oil painting, or as you can see here, like a neon type of image, it will reference that style. And then visual intensity, I usually tend to take it further to the right. So it's, referencing what the prompt is asking it to do in a more intense way. And then you also have all these effects. So if you go to all, you have first movements. So cubism, fantasy, glitch art, modernism. I believe there's surrealism. Yep. Synthwave. And then there's a whole bunch of themes. So anime, cartoon, comic book, digital art. It's pretty extensive, pretty nice. And then if you keep going down, there's even like techniques. So chiaroscuro, bold lines, fresco, ink. So you could like convert it to a black and white without even having to put that in the prompt. Lots of great options. And even then it then goes into effects. It's then materials. keeps going.
It's amazing that it was just a few options when it first started. Do you remember when it first started?
Yeah. It was like just isolated to a
four
few
options. Now it's like,
yeah, it's quite extensive now. And so now you also have options for color and tone. Wow. So once again, you can convert it to say black and white, a cool tone, golden, pastel colors, etc. And then you can choose the lighting. So you can choose like dramatic lighting, golden hour, harsh light, etc. And then camera angle. So anything from wide angle, close up, macro photography, shallow depth of field. Wow. It's quite nice. So in this case, I go to the prompt down in the bottom middle. You can get away with just putting in, say, one word like I did here. I have the word serenity, but I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to paste in a more kind of researched prompt a mixture of me building up on my own and also going to something like Google Gemini or u.com, which I can also reference later if you want, remind you. Those are great sources where you can ask for prompts for a certain style. So Asian blue egg hand with a woman head in the style of ZBrush, etc., etc. Sector art. And with all these options on the left, I think just to begin with, the only thing I might do is just go to lighting. And I like the idea of surreal lighting. So I'm going to choose that. but it's set to art. And I'm just using all the descriptives in my prompt to generate my image. And do remember, if we go back up on the left, that I chose under aspect ratio widescreen. So we will get a horizontal type of image, which is also a perfect format if you want to create, say, a cover banner for a group. And then from there, you just click on the blue generate button in the bottom right. Takes a couple seconds.
Have a sip of coffee.
Sip of coffee or water. I think they need to have a firefly floating around. They just have this kind of,
and it lands and then takes off again.
yeah, it's just this, right. So that's pretty wild, yeah. So, and then when you click on any image, you get a bigger view, and then you can just hit the right arrow. And then when you are in your image, you can go to the top right where you can hit download. So you can download your image. If you go to the bottom right, you can save as favorites. Click the up icon and you have copy link to image, copy image, save to library, and then you can submit to gallery or open in Adobe Express. So if I submit to gallery, you are submitting with your name to the Firefly gallery where they can, if they accept it, they will showcase it and people can like it, people can remix it. It's pretty fun. So I just hit submit. So I tend to do that with any image that I do like. I tend to create a lot. And so, you know, only the best gets in the gallery. And then there's another one that's pretty cool though, for pretty wild image though. So yeah, same thing, hit download. I might want to submit this to gallery. Hopefully they like surreal imagery. And then also just on the left side, you'll notice when you hover your cursor, you can rate your own image or report it, which is kind of weird, the idea of reporting. I guess report it if the imagery is offensive, or, you know, I think maybe also if you hit report, you might be able to like say that you're not happy with the quality of the image generated. Now, if we go up to edit in the top left, that's where you can go to generative fill, where I can add other elements. I can say generate similar. So it would reference this one image and generate another sequence. You can use it as a structure reference or as a style reference. And then you can also jump over to Adobe Express, where you can add text, add shapes and graphics, or create a social post. So the integration between Adobe Firefly and Express is quite nice. In this case, I'm curious, but first I'm going to get out and just see what the whole series was. Yeah. But say I go back here, maybe I go to the first one. So go to the first one, I go up to edit, and I'm going to say generate similar. And then as you can see here, it's going to create a new grouping of 3 similar to this one. So by similar, we're going to find out if they mean style. Okay, why go straight to, yeah. So it used the same similar kind of pose with the snake, and it has the same color theme. So I like this kind of, this blue color theme. And I'm going to submit it to gallery as well. I'm hoping in the future that there's an option where you'll be able to download and submit to gallery at once. That would be nice, you know. But I do think, oh, so here is something that is new that is quite helpful too. If you look in the top right, you'll now notice there is a button for download all. So instead of going and doing that process for each, I can just say download all, and boom, all 4 will get downloaded. And it's smart. So if it knows that I've already downloaded, say, the first one, it will add like a 1 after the naming convention. It looks like here is where we can submit an idea, report a bug. You can also join the Firefly community where you can learn and engage, and you can rate Firefly images. And then just so you know, the top right, if you click on the grid, it's an app switcher, and it will let you jump into other apps that you have downloaded through your Adobe Creative Cloud plan. So for me, I could jump over to Firefly, Acrobat, Adobe Stock, Photoshop, or Lightroom. Acrobat Sign, that's interesting that you can even go there. So yeah, and you can even go to Adobe Home. So we have a question here.
Yeah. Hi, Andrew. I noticed that when you use words related to brands, an example, Nikon lens, a message appears saying that some words are not proper and then not used to generate the image. How can you use ZBrush for your prompts? Is there a workaround?
It's a great question. So, when it comes to other AI generating apps such as Midjourney and Leonardo and image creator from Microsoft or Designer, they keep changing their name. I'm not sure what it's called. A lot of them will reference things like that, like names like Nikon, ZBrush, as well as say celebrity names or artists. With Adobe, they are a bit more strict. So Adobe, is trying to be first. They're trying to be thankful for like people who have submitted their work to Adobe Stock, and that's where they will reference that type of imagery when you choose photographs. And second, they tend to warn you when you try to use like an artist name or a brand name. So they are a bit more strict than some of the other generative AI apps such as Midjourney or Leonardo. There might be some way that they can get the permission from artists in the future or an artist foundation if they've passed away, where they might be able to use that as reference for stylization. But for now, I think they're pretty strict about that. So let's see. Let's go to one image. And then, as I said, when you go to edit, you can go to generative fill. And so just to show you while we're here in Adobe Firefly, you'll see over on the left, let me just zoom in, there is a little panel for inserting, removing, expanding, and pan. So I clicked on insert, or I think it defaulted to insert, and you get a brush. You can use your left or right bracket keys. If I do left, it gets smaller, right gets larger. And then I can paint an area. And it's a little confusing because it looks like it's erasing because you can see the grid coming through, but it's really going to insert like it says. So up comes this kind of contextual taskbar like you see in Photoshop. And then you would enter a prompt here. So what do you think, Sarah? What would go well with on the left side of this strange image?
Well, this is horrible, but I thought of a rabbit for some reason. I don't know
That's
why.
funny. I was thinking similar. I was thinking a rabbit or a rat or something.
I don't know why. I don't know why. That probably is not the best thing. Like, it'd probably be better if like it was like, something else. I'm not sure.
Right. So I typed in rabbit and I just hit the
just
blue.
out of curiosity.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the whole point of this, is to have fun. Like,
yeah,
you can treat Adobe Firefly as something that you can work on images for projects, and it's serious as you want, but it can also be as just creative and playful as you want. So let's pull a rabbit out of our hat here.
Yeah. This time it'll probably come up. I'm sorry, we can't allow that.
We are afraid that the snake might eat the. Oh, that's cute. So let me zoom in there. That's kind of cute.
It's almost like a.
Cute.
Oh boy, yeah, no.
And then you'll notice at the bottom there is this like panel, so I can click, and then you can get the different rabbits.
Well, I thought the second one had kind of some of the lighting technique that the other.
Yeah, and the color too, right?
Yeah.
First one's cute and is wearing like a kind of dress or something. The second one kind of matches the style. And then the third one is kind of cute but looks more cartoony. So I would say, the second one kind of matches it. And so once you do that, you then see there's a keep button. So if I say keep, it becomes part of the image. Now, just for the sake of showing, the capabilities, let's go over here and then I'm gonna say chubby rabbit. Let's see what I'm not sure if I'm spelling rabbit correctly. Is it 2 B's and 1 T? I think
it is.
Yeah.
Rabbit.
So since I painted this in another area and I hit generate, it will generate that on the right side.
So is there a way to do this in the program and keep it like layered like you would in Photoshop?
You just took away my.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No.
It's just a question, really.
so yeah, that's what I was going to show later, is that when I go to Photoshop for the Photoshop part of this presentation. That's exactly what you can do. Is it will keep each generative AI layer, and it even has like a layer mask connected to it. So I will be showing like what the advantages, disadvantages of the two platforms are. So yeah, I typed in another rabbit. So I have another kind of rabbit. So here's a
Oh,
rabbit reaching, right?
yeah.
Cute. But say I, hit keep, and then I decided, you know what, that's kind of not what I wanted. So as you can see over on the left, I can click remove, and then I can just quickly paint over. It doesn't have to be like precise. It can just be the general shape, but try to get all of the information of that original rabbit. And then I just hit the remove button. And then as you can see at the bottom middle, it's generating 3 new. Um, okay, so yeah, there's a question which I'll get to after. Okay, that's kind of weird. It kind of made
Oh,
a
I may
sword out of it or something. So let me see about removing again. So if I say cancel, I can hit remove again and just see if it's a bit cleaner. I might need to be more expansive. Like instead of following the shape of the rabbit, I might to make it just a larger selection just so it knows. Yeah. So let me try that again. So I have that, but let me just say, you know what? Let's just make a bigger selection, and hopefully it'll just fill with the background color. And then I will get to Michael's question after that. Yeah, that one. So the reason why I think it's cropping it is because, oh, good. So it did do a nice clean remove, and there is the background. And to answer Michael's question, what if you want the entire rabbit? I think it's because it's the way that I painted it. So I painted it like in the corner. So let's think of another new subject. But say I paint something here, maybe something flying. So um, maybe that's a little large, but I go down to the prompt area and I'm just going to say, I'm not sure if I need to even say flying. I think it'll just know that, but flying, tropical bird. And then I hit generate. And because it's in an area that is not, yeah, I should have done flying rabbit too.
I was thinking that.
I'll do that next. But yeah, see, so because it's not like on the corner or on the edge,
It gives you the whole
it
animal.
gives you the whole bird, which is kind of interesting kind of thing. So I'm going to hit cancel. So when I hit cancel, it keeps that same selection, right? So then I can make it just a little bit larger. And then I could say, instead of bird, I'll just say flying rabbit. There we go. And then once again, you see the 3 little kind of progress circles spinning at the bottom.
I suppose if you wanted the oh, interesting.
So here it's the flying bird's face, but here, second one is flying rabbit, or not flying bird, but flying rabbit's face, then flying rabbit, and then another flying rabbit, which is pretty cool. I like that one.
I like the last one. I was
Yeah,
just thinking maybe if you still wanted your character to be at the bottom, but you wanted a whole rabbit, instead of using your brush all the way to the edge, maybe not going all the way to the edge, it would cue it to give you the whole.
well, that's what I said. That's what I said, that it did get cut off because I went over the edge, but here, because it's like an area that has background,
Yeah.
it knows to create the full figure. So yeah, so this is fun in Adobe Firefly. Now if I hit expand, stay. I'm just going to download this first so I don't lose this crazy fun image. And then they're even telling you that we can add text. So they're once again reminding you that you can easily jump into Adobe Express. Now if I go to expand and I say leave, then that just brings me to this kind of grid where if I go like this and I go like that, and I just say generate, it should just extend the background for me.
Give it a second or two.
There we go. So yeah. And then it does give you different previews. It's pretty good. There's a little bit of, excess or whatever, but the main thing is, I'm about to jump into Photoshop, and I'm not afraid to use Photoshop. I use it all the time. So if I create an image like this, I can go back in and clean up any kind of like weird haziness or remnants.
When you're doing your workflows for any projects, do you find yourself just starting it in here and then moving on to Photoshop, or do you spend, like, what's your percentage of spending time in Firefly versus Photoshop?
I mean, it depends on the image. Like sometimes I put in a prompt and it comes out perfect, and then I like the image, and then I just kind of develop it in Photoshop. So with that, I'll just take that as a springboard to jump into Photoshop. Now, before I jump into Photoshop, and I'm going to be jumping into Photoshop Beta, I wanted to show you how you access Photoshop Beta. So when you sign up with your email for Creative Cloud, you will then have the kind of cloud icon in the top right of your desktop, at least on a Mac. I'm not quite sure exactly where it is on a PC. I'm a Mac guy, but when you go there, there's different sections on the left. And so if I go to files, it'll show like previous images I've worked on. You can get direct access to stock and marketplace, quick actions, discover. Now, if I go to apps, if I go to all apps, it shows all my apps that are installed and if they are updated. What I do tend to do is I get in the good habit, and I think it's a good habit, if I go to updates and I do check for updates. So I do tend to check for updates every couple of days, or if I see that there's a social post about a new update, then I'll do that. So as you can see here, I have Photoshop Beta, and I have Lightroom Camera Raw, Photoshop, Lightroom, blah, blah, blah. So I have regular Photoshop and I have Photoshop Beta. Now you could say, well, how do we get to the beta versions? You'll look under categories, and there is a whole beta apps section. So once you click that, if you have not installed Photoshop Beta, it will look similar to the other ones down here where it says install on the right side. In my case, it says open because it's already installed, and it even says installed beta apps. And then it shows you all the other options. So if you are curious about testing features and fixes under development in the beta builds of other ones, you have anything from Illustrator to Premiere Pro, Rush, Effects, Bridge, Character Animator, Substance 3D, Media Encoder, InDesign. So there's a whole range. I'm very Photoshop, Lightroom, and Firefly and Express orientated or focused. So I pretty much just have the Photoshop Beta. Okay, so that's just how you get that. It's already installed. So in my case, I'm just going to switch over. So here I am in the Photoshop Beta. You can see that in the top left. And so these are just some stock images that I downloaded to just show you these features. And then I was going to show you about generating an image as well as developing an image. So the first thing is, if I have an image already open like this, I like this kind of kooky crew of kids. But say we have this group of people, and then the girl in the yellow said that she's now doing movies or something and doesn't want to be in this photo shot, right? So first thing is, I like to work clean. So I just hit the F key. I'm focused just on this image. If I hit the space bar, I can move it around. And then I can simply, it does say select subject. So if you hit select subject, it should select all the different characters. So the 5, even though I only want 1. And then I could technically then just grab the lasso tool, and holding the option key, I can go in, and as I hold down the option key and drag around, you can see there's a little subtract icon or minus icon next to the cursor, which means it's going to subtract from it. So there's still some more on this girl. So I'm just going to hold the Option key again and then just watch the edges go down and just remove that. Boom. And so now it's just her. Now, one thing I would recommend though is if it's a tight, in this case, it probably will work just fine. In fact, I'm just going to try it, but a lot of times I do like to extend the selection beyond the subject, so it does pick up more of the background. But I'm just curious. So in this case, I'm going to hit Generative Fill, and then I don't need to put in a prompt. I'm just removing. So I just hit the Generate button on the right in the taskbar. You can see a little progress bar up top. And if it doesn't do a good job, I can just go back and expand that selection a little bit. Right. So it created something very strange, which I kind of like though, because I like surrealism. But whoa, created a new girl. That's interesting. Kind of like McDonald's color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it is beta, so.
Right. So it's a little strange. So I do think, like I said, I think the selection was just too tight. So I just do Command Z. We're back to the selection. If you go up to select, you can say modify and expand. And then there's also a feature that I really love, transform selection. But I believe also if you are in the lasso tool, you hover inside your selection and you right click. You can also do transform selection. So what that does is when I pull the edge, it expands the selection out a bit. The only thing is in this case, it's kind of, well, I could do, if I hold Option and do both sides, it should expand both sides. Yeah. So I can expand it a little bit and I can enter return. And I know some people consider it an outdated tool, but I'm a big fan of the quick selection tool. So if I go down here and I click here, you get a visual preview. And if I hit the brush key and then you always, any tool that I work in, I always check the options bar up top. So the opacity is set to 100, and I'm just going to make the flow 100 as well. And then when I paint, okay, so do be aware of the foreground and background colors. So if I switch it to black as foreground, when I paint while I'm in quick mask mode, I can add to that selection. So quick mask mode is a way that you can paint a selection, which I'm pretty fond of. You'll notice that it's a little soft looking. So if it's too soft for your liking, you can just right click, move the hardness slider to 100%. And then when you draw again, it's a solid kind of selection. And I just want a little bit over her and maybe a little bit around there. Pretty good. Whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want it too tight because you want it to pick up the background color. I think that's pretty good. And then I just hit Q again. But before I go, I'm just going to bring it back to 0 hardness because that's the way I like my brush to be. And then I did Command Z to get rid of that black spot. So now I have a bigger selection. Now when I hit Generative Fill and then hit Generate, I do think it should be more successful.
While that's doing something, Michael had a question about, wouldn't you want to also add in between the legs to remove the shadow?
I did. So I have the area in between. Oh, that's weird that it keeps keeps creating a new person instead of
you really need a person on here, apparently.
This one's not so bad. The other ones are a little distorted in the face. See, and the reason why I did not, just to go back, if I turn off, so you'll notice the thing that I like about Photoshop or Photoshop Beta is when I'm doing this process, you'll see that there is a generative fill layer that is created. So you get a layer for everything that you do. So I can turn it on, turn it off, and there's a built-in layer mask. Now, the question was, didn't you want to also get the shadow?
Yeah.
In this case, if I did want to replace her with someone else, by not selecting that shadow, it kind of read it and made a more realistic shadow. So in terms of realism, I think it made the shadow better by doing that. Now, if I wanted to be a stickler about it, I could just go and hit the command key on my layer mask, which then brings me back to the selection. I can choose background again, and then with quick mask mode, I'm already back to my brush. I could just go and just say, okay, get that little shadow as well. Hit Q again, then hit generative fill and hit generate. Hopefully it'll pick up the background. I don't know. Might put another person there.
It really wants you to have a person there today.
Yeah, it's sort of like it wants to.
Oh,
Yeah, it's doing some surreal stuff. So
what is that?
some of these new people are kind of successful though. It's sort of like it's reading the image and seeing that they're kind of in creative or kooky attire, and it's adding someone else in a kind of fun attire.
Is there a maybe surefire way of to remove if you were to type in remove? Would that make it a surefire bet or no, not really?
Right. So I'm doing a command click on the mask again. I don't know why it picked up that. I'm just
Oh
going
yeah.
to choose the marquee option, click subtract. Maybe I'm going to also, with the lasso tool holding the option key, I'm just going to get rid of it where it goes over the other person. Okay, so it's just there. Now, what it can do is once I'm in that selection, if I right click, let's see, it used to be right there, but well, oh, you got to make sure you're in the background layer. So I want to be in the selection, but be in the background layer. Then when I right click over it, you can feather it. And then you can also do like content aware fill.
Hmm.
If you also go to fill, you'll have the option of content aware fill. But if I go to content aware fill, you get this, which I don't really need this whole thing where I need to tweak, the sliders to make it more correct. So I'm just hit cancel. So once again, I hit right click and I can just say fill, and then it defaults to content aware. And then I hit OK, and hopefully this one will do a better job. Okay, so that's good. So that's good enough for me. And then, I've been using Photoshop since the 90s, so I can just go to the clone tool, hit the left bracket to make it smaller. It's set to 100% opacity and flow. I might make the flow just a little bit lower just so it's a bit graceful. Option click, and then when I brush over, so option click a source point, and then I brush over just to get rid of that. So, but I don't want to get too involved with this. It's just wanted to show that kind of feature.
Mhm.
But the main thing is it's nice that you have these generative fill options as a layer. So you can turn them on, turn them off. Now, one question that seems to come up a lot is can you move the new created generative fill? Just be aware that it picks up the background. So if I move her, it's see the background, it brings it with her. If it blends with the background, it's not a problem. But as you can see here, it's a different shade of gray in the background, so it doesn't blend. So you would have to technically go back and click on the layer mask and then kind of erase around her to make her fit in that scene. Use the object selection tool. Does it do the same? Yeah, well, the object selection tool is good, but I did want to show that when you're in the image itself, it does have this select subject option in the taskbar. But I didn't want to get too involved in like showing all the different, selection tools.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could go to object selection tool or quick selection. It's just I want to focus more on generative AI and Photoshop as well as Camera Raw. Okay, so that's that aspect. But here's another one which I think should be more successful.
I love
So
this.
there's a woman jumping, and if I just choose the lasso tool and I do like a loose selection around,
Fiesta.
boom. So I have the selection, and then I hit generative fill and hit generate. I think this should follow the perspective of that wall behind, and it should build the clouds up nicely. So hopefully it'll do a great job.
Andrew,
What you did.
we're at 7:40. I know you asked me to tell you about a timestamp.
Right. That's another reason why I didn't want to get too much into the selection tools. But as you can see here, it creates another generative fill layer in the layers panel. You can turn it on, turn it off. It has a built-in layer mask. And I think it did a great job. And then just remember, if you saw, like, say, different variations, there's two ways you can access the variations. One is in the taskbar. You see it says 1 of 3. You just hit the right arrow and it gives you slightly different variations. Or you would just go to Window and choose your Properties panel. And then you could click on the different ones. I think they're all pretty successful, though.
Yes, every single one.
You can't even tell. If I were to post this, tell that there was an original person behind. Okay, so let's see. So if I do Command N, and it doesn't really matter the size for what I'm going to show, but I'll just do like Generative AI in Photoshop as the title. And say I choose like letter, 8.5 by 11, doesn't matter, white background. I hit create. You'll notice that now when I am on this new document, the contextual taskbar says import image or generate image. So if I were to click on generate image, I can create a new generated image just like Firefly right in Photoshop Beta.
Wow.
You can also go up to edit and you can generate image. And I went to the preferences where I changed the keyboard shortcut to Command G. So I could also just do a quick Command G and it'll pop up generate image window for me. Now, before I do that, I want to grab a new prompt. Let's see. This could be fun. Maybe a dragon, fiery dragon. So the minute I click on generate image from the taskbar at the bottom, or I go to edit generate image or Command G that I set it to. So I'll just click here. You now have this new generate image panel. You can't resize it, though. I kind of sometimes want to resize it. You'll see that the top part is where you post your prompt. So I can just Command V, fiery dragon with spiraling universe behind, dreamlike, HD. I'll just say quality, not just HD. Quality. And then art or photo, since it's something, sounds like a plane going by, Sarah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's kind of nice. Sounded good. Well, I don't think you find many dragons on Adobe stock, so I'm going to choose art. And then reference image. If I had like a sketch of the way it's flying, the direction it's flying, I could choose that. Otherwise, I can go to, say, effects, and then similar to Firefly, I'm back to this huge variety of different options. I kind of want to see what it does first and then maybe see about doing another one like this. But you can even do like sketch or stamp, synthwave. But in this case, I'm just going to hit generate. And then as you can see in the properties panel, it'll create 3 variations. Progress bar up top. Ooh, that's pretty cool, right?
Wow.
So here we have Adobe Firefly right in Photoshop Beta. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
I can just click on the different variations. I like all of them, really.
Yeah, they all turned out really well.
Right.
Such detail, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know which one. Is there a favorite of yours, Sarah?
I like the first one.
First one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So here I am in the first one. And so Firefly in Photoshop is now the version 3 model. So it is using the same one as Firefly. So it's more detailed and pretty creative. Mortal Kombat came into mind on the first one. Sure.
We got a lot of creatives here.
Right. And so for the other aspects I wanted to show you, first is, you can do the generative fill as we did first. Then you can create the generative AI with the new kind of contextual taskbar. That's always a tongue twister for me. Or
Mhm.
just go up to edit, generate image. And then what I tend to do is, how do you get the size image for your background? Right. So originally I chose a new document. So my new document was 8.5 by 11. And then it kind of conformed to that shape. So whatever you choose when you do Command N, if I were to say custom 1280 by 720,
Mm.
then it would be like a banner size as an example. But I just go back to window and then go back to my generative AI in Photoshop document where I created this dragon. Now, the last kind of thing that I tend to do when I'm in Photoshop with images like this, or if I bring them into Photoshop, I tend to not just create with Firefly or say Leonardo or one of the other ones. I always do something. So when I bring them into Photoshop, I always tend to go to filter, camera raw, and then it has its
Mm.
own window. So you get a nice big preview. And then on the right, oh, thank you. Love the dragon image. Cool. And then on the right, I might do a command minus to zoom out just a little bit so I can see it better. And then I'm in the basic panel. So with the basic panel, I'm in color first. And so, you have the temperature slider. I can go to the left to make it cooler.
Mm.
Just as an extreme, I could even go that far and make it like a icy dragon. And then if you do go too far on one way, you can just double click the tab and it goes back to 0. So if I want it to be warmer, I could go to the right. In this case, I like the blues, so I might go minus 15 temperature. For tint, I could give it more greens or more magenta, maybe a little bit magenta. And then for vibrance, vibrance will add saturation to the areas that are lacking saturation. So as I go to the right, it adds a little bit more vibrance to things that were lacking it. And then I do tend to tweak the saturation a little bit to then, it always brings out, I've noticed, these warm tones nicely. So vibrance will bring out the blues, and then the saturation will bring out the fiery orange tones a bit. And of course, some more of the blues as well. Saturation does overall. And then when I hit the light panel, light section, that's where I can tweak my exposure a little bit. And I always like to tend to up the contrast, 18 or 19. Highlights, if I feel like some highlights are blown out, I go negative. So down to like 15, 14. And then I bump the whites to the right a little bit for contrast. And then you'll notice down here is a little icon. If you hover, it says toggle to default settings. You can also use like the backslash, I think, key it is. But I just click on it, and that's my original. Click again, that's where I am now. So before, it's kind of a little bit too yellowish, caramel colored. Now it has more of the dynamics I want of the image. And then if I wanted to bring up more detail, from there I go to effects, where I can move the texture slider to the right and then bring out a bit more detail in the detailed areas. Since they introduced texture a while ago, I tend to focus on texture over clarity. If you use clarity, it tends to kind of grunge up the image. See, so if I move it over to the right, it kind of a bit heavy-handed. And then if there was areas of your photo or graphic image, if you do dehaze, if you go to the right, it kind of gets rid of the haziness and makes it a little bit more solid looking. If you go to the left, it would make it more hazy. So I don't want that. You can add a vignette, so a light vignette or a dark vignette.
I like the dark.
Yeah, I was going to say I might add a little dark vignette so if I go back to 0, I'll just pull it to the left until it has a little bit of a dark vignette to focus my eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then what I might do is I tend to go to detail and then do sharpening. So I might do like 38 to 45, something like that. And then what I really like is the ability, which you can also do in Lightroom, under the masking slider. If you hold down the Option key and you pull the tab to the right, so if you start off, anything that is white is being sharpened. So if you hold the Option or Alt key on a PC and you move to the right. Whatever is white, which is most detailed, is being sharpened. Whatever is black is being protected. So you can see here the details of the dragon will get sharpened while the smoother areas will not. And I just let go, and then it's focusing on sharpening that particular. If I had noise or color noise, I could reduce that with these sliders. If you wanted to also tweak it a little bit more for the tone, you could go to the tone curve. Here it says gives you greater control over the tonal range and contrast. So you go here and you could just midtones lighter or darker. At the highlight area up here. So it's with this histogram, there's your highlights, your midtones, and your darks. So if I go down here, I can make the darks even darker. The kind of traditional S curve, as I call it, for contrast. Once again, I click that little icon for the before and after. So you can see it's come a long way. And then you even have like color mixer. So you can go to hue, saturation, or luminance. And you could tweak the reds, oranges, and all that. But the one thing I really love, and this is also in Lightroom, and it's basically the same processing engine in Camera Raw as the Lightroom processing engine too. So they're very similar panels. If I'm in Color Mixer, you'll notice there's this icon. So if I go there, the targeted adjustment tool, I'm a big fan of that. If you click on that, you don't even have to know exactly what the color might be. So if I wanted to saturate some of the blue over here, of course I could move the blue slider, but there might be other colors I'm not detecting. So the minute I click on the target adjustment tool, when you bring it over, it has these little circles. So when I click here, and as I pull to the right, it's adding saturation to blues.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then it also, if I go left, I would desaturate. See, so it turns gray.
That's a whole nother picture right there.
Yeah, right. So let's not go gray. Move it to the right, up the blues a little bit.
Wow. You've like made this photograph 3D now, kind of. You know what I mean? By just the before and after.
And then it's mimicking that contextual taskbar that was in Photoshop here at the bottom. So I could also jump over to hues and then, change the hue of something. So
wild.
I click here, you'll notice if I go here, it's becoming more magenta. If I go here, it's becoming more kind of a cyan blue.
Oh, cool.
And then I could go to luminance and say, okay, well, maybe this area is too dark. Do I want it darker or lighter?
If you think about it, that's how we work. Like we work by comparing and looking at things next to each other. So by putting it on.
I think it's excellent, these new introductions of things like the taskbar,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like a built-in tone curve. So you can click to control the tone curve, and then you just pop back over to that. So there's that. And then one more thing I want to show you. No. So Michael asked if this was created in Firefly, you would not have access to all these layers, and you would not have access to Camera Raw. So, but what I tend to do is I might create the image originally in Firefly and then bring it into Photoshop, where I open up, go to Filter, Camera Raw, and then do all this wonderful editing. Yeah, it's quite nice, all the different options. I like these little taskbars. And then one last thing I wanted to show you is when I'm in Camera Raw, like I love how everything is together. So there was color changing, there was light or tonal corrections, exposure, highlights, shadows, etc. There was the texture, clarity, dehaze, and vignetting. Under details like sharpening or noise reduction. Curves, color mixer was the hue, saturation, luminance, HSL. But then if you go to color grading, if you do the one on the right, which is global, you can give a color cast to the whole thing. So if I click here, there's a kind of greenish color cast. And as I move this around, you're adding, like here's magenta color cast, whatever. Now, if I do Command Z, I get out. And then if I choose any of these other ones, if I click here, it's all of them, midtones, shadows, highlights, or the way I like to work kind of more focused. So I could click on independently the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights and add color to it. So in this case, I see that there's highlights here. maybe I want to add a bit more color to that area. So if I choose highlights, you have the big kind of color wheel. I can say, do I want green there? And so it adds a bit more green to the highlighted areas. And then I can just move it around. And then the way this works is when your little circle is at the edge, you'll see underneath saturation is 100. As you click that circle and pull in, you'll see the slider moving left, less saturation. So if I go back to the middle, it's 0 saturation, as if there's no additional color grading. So you can just move around and try different colors and see what you like. But, just for the sake of this, I kind of like the little green. Do you like the green?
I like it. I like it all.
Yeah,
like
so a little green to the highlights, but I
Yeah.
do go towards the middle. And if I didn't want to just do it circle wise, I could just go straight down to the saturation. And you'll notice that now the circle moves. So one or the other, they both move in tandem. And so I could, but I do want to make sure I can see some of that green. So I'm going to make it kind of midway. And then I don't really focus on the, there's no distortion, for the optics. Lens blur, that's like a live event in itself, there's so many cool features for that, but don't really have time. And then calibration, I really wouldn't tweak these after you've done so much to your color.
Work,
you could change the different process, and you could tweak certain colors if you wanted to be a little bit more stronger, but I'm pretty happy with where we are. So then in this case, if you hit cancel, you're back to dismissing the whole thing.
Yeah, don't do that.
But if I hit OK, then there I am. And since I had worked on the generative AI image, it has a built-in smart filter. So a smart filter is connected to that layer. So if I turn it off, you see nothing. But if I go to where it says smart filter, I can turn off that, and that's before, that's after. And then it has a built-in layer mask. So if I click on that, I could paint away some of the effect. So if I click there, black is the foreground color. I choose brush, right bracket to make it larger. Opacity is 100, but flow, I'm going to make it a little bit not as strong, maybe like a 50. And then I tend to turn on and off the smart filter just so I can see. And I'll say, okay, maybe I'll tone down, maybe bring down the flow back to like 35. Yep. And then I'll paint with black as foreground color around this area. Okay, make sure you're in there, because now it's thought I just wanted to paint black.
Layer, yeah.
So always be professionally paranoid. And always keep your eye on the layers panel. So Command Z, make sure you click until you see a frame around that layer mask in the smart filter. Then now when I paint, it's lightening that and kind of saturating that area. I don't really want to do that, so I hit X, brings the white back, and then I can paint back that color, but I just wanted to show that feature. So do be aware of, being familiar with your layers panel so you get the right thing to do you want.
Very nice. Very nice. Definitely made it 3D.
Any questions while I'm here before I jump back into the room? We can share some links and stuff.
Great question. I don't see anything in the, as of now. You've kind of been answering them as we've gone, so I think we've covered everything. I do want everyone, if you're interested in the giveaway, the raffle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if everyone who wants to participate for the option of the raffle, if you could put the hashtag Adobe.
And did you want me to share I have the tab open for the giveaway if you want me to do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so let me just put that over here.
If not, I can do it. I have that open too.
Yeah, so if I go over here, yeah.
Is it ready? Yeah, so if you put in hashtag Adobe, what that will do is, and is it uppercase sensitive? Do you know, Andrew?
I think it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I noticed that I could put in hashtag lowercase Adobe. So I just want to make sure that it's not, I don't want them to be kicked out because.
But I think just for the sake of this, you could put in hashtag lowercase Adobe, But I think if you did put it, an uppercase A, it would still be fine.
Okay. Just
So
want to
yes,
make sure.
so wherever you are watching from, start typing in hashtag
Adobe.
Adobe.
And that way we have this little thing that will allow us to spin the wheel.
Right. So it looks like we got a good bunch of people. So I'm going to click start.
Wait. You got to change it to Adobe. Hashtag Adobe.
Oh yeah. Very good. See, teamwork, everybody, teamwork.
Just want to make sure because otherwise we won't get
That's
anybody.
right. Otherwise, it's for StreamYard.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just give
And I
everybody
don't
about.
think we need this exclude winners because we're not doing a
No,
multiple
we
draw.
only
But
have the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So match text _ Adobe. So I'm going to click start collecting comments.
There we go.
And then it's showing, we have 7 entries.
Yep.
So I do see that there's at least 10 or more people watching.
1,
So
2, 3,
if you
4,
have not
5,
commented,
6, 7. I see the 7 people that have put their. I do see 7, including myself. So hopefully it doesn't pick myself. We'll have to do it again if it does.
right, that's all right. But main thing is, let me go back. I'll turn that on. Exclude winners when doing multiple draws in case we need to do that.
There you go.
So if you have not typed in hashtag Adobe, do that now.
Yep.
And then I'm going to click on start collecting comments again.
Mm-hmm.
And you only need to type it in once, but do that. So it does still say 7.
Yep.
So it looks like some people are being shy.
That's okay.
Okay, so 7 people have the chance to win the Adobe Creative Cloud. That's for 12 months, right, Sarah?
Yes. And so if you, what I'll need is, I'll eventually need to collect your information, and that includes like your name, your last name, and also the email. That you currently use for your Adobe software. So if you're already using Adobe software, what will happen is they'll attach 12 months onto whatever you currently have.
Right.
If you're a student, you'll want to make sure that you don't use your school email. You'll want to use your own private email. And creating an account with Adobe doesn't cost you anything. You can have an account with Adobe and not have any of this software. So we'll figure that out when it comes time to whoever wins, because I'll need that email that's associated with your Adobe account, because they'll need the ID, what they call the Adobe ID.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So do be aware that the winner has to give the email that they use for their Adobe account.
Correct.
And then you can get that access to 12 months. All right, so here we go. Ready? Shall I hit draw?
Yeah.
Well, they should have a drum roll with it, right? And Rose won. Yay. And I know Rose from our groups. I've seen her in our groups. So congratulations, Rose.
All right. Let me write your name down. That way I will remember to reach out to you. Rose Kieran. Okay. So Rose, if you would contact me on the Tampa Adobe user here, I'll share that banner again. Let's see. Let me go to, if you could go over to the Facebook group and send me a message. That way I can DM you and get your information so that I can send it on to Adobe so that you can receive your 12-month subscription. It'll come in an email. So, but I need to collect that information from you. So if you would head on over there and send me your information, that would be great. And Rose says, wow, this will help me big time. Awesome.
Cool.
I love that.
Love to hear it. Yeah, love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, Andrew was wonderful.
Well, we need now we need to share a little social links here now.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to also let you know too that the raffle was sponsored by the Adobe Community Experts Program. So they are the ones. Actually, Andrew and I are both part of the Adobe Community Experts Program, and so thank you to them for giving us the free subscription for 12 months.
To give away. Yeah, nice.
Thank you. So before we go, I just want to. Andrew, you
want me to run through the links?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, could you show everyone that monitor that
Right.
you were sharing with me? Yeah.
So yeah, so I know there's people from the Photoshop and Lightroom group, the Tampa Bay Adobe user group, and the AI art group. Um, I highly recommend BenQ monitors, and I wanted to showcase that there is a new BenQ monitor, the PD3225U 4K Thunderbolt 3 monitor. So it's Thunderbolt 3, and it's a big draw to it is this deeper blacks quality. So the quality is really great quality, very nice colors, and very deep blacks. Display P3. There's an M book mode. The colors are tonal control for Mac devices. Um, I'm not sure, like if someone were to ask if you can use it if you have a PC as opposed to a Mac. I think you probably could, but it is focused for the Thunderbolt 3 technology, and it's a wonderful, beautiful monitor. The BenQ PD3225U. Yep. And then, do you want me to give some shout outs? So I
Yeah,
don't mind.
please. Yeah, yeah. But I have a real quick question before you do that. It was Michael had a question about now I know, Andrew, you do some training, and Michael asked, does Adobe have a class on color correction? The first thing that came to my mind was you, but then the second thing that came to my mind was I know LinkedIn does. But did you want to talk about some of the stuff that you do in training on?
Sure. So, yeah. So first, just want to, say thank you and give a shout out once again to Tampa Adobe User Group.com.
Mhm.
And once again, if you have not joined, do join the Tampa Bay Adobe User Group on Facebook. Very good. And do subscribe to Sarah's YouTube channel,
Mhm.
Sarah Schweiger 9401 on YouTube, which is where the recording of this will be.
Yep.
And then you can find me where you can, send a friend request or follow and then send me a message on Facebook at facebook.com/andrew.kavanaugh. And to consider subscribing to my channel, which is youtube.com/drewcav. And as Sarah said earlier, so yeah, so if I do Photoshop and Lightroom tutoring, photo compositing, retouching, you can reach me at either one of those places, Facebook or YouTube. And I also I'm the creator and the head admin of the busy groups, Photoshop and Lightroom group. Come join facebook.com/groups, Photoshop Lightroom group, and the AI art and digital art group, facebook.com/groups, AI art, digital art. Great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for coming and speaking with everybody. I learned a lot and I really enjoyed watching you manipulate the dragon. It just like really came alive, and
Sure.
it's really fun to kind of watch that kind of stuff because it's not stuff that I work on. So it was nice. It was a nice reprieve.
And I think that's a good thing to say is that, it's great to create directly in Firefly, Adobe Firefly, or even other apps, but a lot of the magic is bringing it into Photoshop and using like Camera Raw and some of the other tools to really bringing it to life. Sharpening it, tonal correcting, color grading, color correcting, etc. Thanks, Michael. Thank you. Thanks, Aiken. Thanks, Aiken. How you say it? Aiken. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Joaquin, isn't it Joaquin?
Joaquin, I think so.
Yes, yes.
Joaquin Phoenix. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you,
Cool.
Aiken. Thank you for tuning in, Michael. Good to see you tonight.
Yeah, and keep your eye on the Tampa Bay Adobe User Group and the Photoshop and Lightroom Group and the AI Art and Digital Art Group for the top pin post or featured post, which is where we will have other live events, news, etc. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, and our group's going to take the summer off, so we'll come back in September with
Oh,
more user group meetings. I'm going to try and spend some more time with my son this summer.
nice.
So, yeah, so for like from now, well, it's June, so July and August, I'm going to take off and not do any of the user groups, and then come back around, in September, and hopefully, we'll be talking a little bit about Adobe Max coming up around the corner in October. So,
Sure.
yep, yep.
And do keep an eye on my groups as well, because I always do live events too, which I
Absolutely.
think I've got a
Yeah.
couple of my friends doing another one next Friday. So
Yeah, check them out. Check them out. And then our winner tonight, make sure that would be
Rose,
Rose, right? Yeah, Rose. Make sure you contact me because I want to make sure that I get you that information, or I get my information from you so that I can get that over to you soon.
great.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody. Until next time, take care.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.